Hey guys, it's Nick. Thanks for tuning in to Long Island Wargaming, and we got some fantasy bat reps up again. So this is a 2,500 point game at Brothers Grimm versus Dwarves, and I brought some Rat Ogres and some Storm Fiends, so that's different, and we'll see how that works out for me. In the description below will be a link to my list if you want to take a more detailed look at it for this 3-game tournament. First up, I got some spells here. I got Wither, Plague, Warp Lightning, and Curse of the Horn Rat. So those are great spells against dwarves. Toughness test is alright because they do have toughness 4, but you know what, if I could wither them down and plague them, no armor save, just pull them off the battlefield, that's pretty decent against some dwarves. The dwarf army is unpainted, but we do have a little breakdown here on the heroes. We've got 2 runesmiths, both with Spell Eater runes, which is pretty annoying, and then a Thane BSB. So the objectives here, this is the battlefield, deployment, and terrain. The objective, primary objective is to beat your opponent by 300 victory points. Secondary objective is to control more table quarters. And tertiary objective is a secret mission that I marked down before I deployed, and it was to kill my opponent's core. I get extra points if I do that. I decided that in order to win this game by 300 points, I have to kill the brick of Longbeards, and then killing like 12 or 14 quarrelers shouldn't be too big of an issue. Well, the quarrelers end up in the building in the back there, which does end up becoming an issue because it's not as easy to kill them, especially when they're stubborn inside that building. And you can see by my deployment here, the only thing that can really go after them is Rat Ogres. But the Rat Ogres go all the way out here to the left flank because I want to keep them away from as much shooting and war machines as possible, and they move rather quickly so they'll run around. The only downside is I didn't realize the gyrocopters were going to end up there, and the gyrocopters could easily redirect these Rat Ogres, so we will see how they go. Rat Ogres also they do not carry the hero on Bonebreaker. The hero on Bonebreaker ended up going in the Storm Room because I wanted to pack more of a punch in the center of my line. Plus he's my general, I don't want him out on the flank. The Storm Fiends are front and center. I want to march them into the building the first turn so I can get some shots, or at least that's the plan. They'll be safest in the building, I think. I think later I decided against that because cannons hitting them in there hit D6 guys at D6 multiple wounds, so odds are they'd be chewed up pretty quickly. But that was the initial plan for their deployment there. Everything's kind of squished together. Hell Pit and Lightning Cannon are on the far right flank. So my opponent has 2 gyrocopters, behind that an organ gun, and then in the building a unit of quarrelers, 20 plus iron drakes, which is pretty scary. The champion does have the troll hammer, torpedo, and there is a full command in there. And then the next unit here are some Longbeards. The Longbeards have 2 of the 3 heroes, one of them being the BSB in that unit. They are equipped with hand weapon and shield, and there's a couple runes here and there, nothing too crazy. Up on the hill we got an organ gun, a cannon, and then to the right of the hill a cannon, and then the unpainted unit of dwarves is a unit of Ironbreakers, and also in there is the second runesmith. So my opponent gets turn 1, he does go ahead and marches up, or flies up these gyrocopters hiding behind the building, this way they cannot get shot at. With the dwarves, not too much movement, just a little bit to the right there with the Ironbreakers. Obviously they don't need to move too much because I'm going to be coming to them. And the cannons don't do too well this turn. I only take 1 wound on the Hell Pit Abomination. 1 cannon absorbs it with regeneration, and the second one gets through but only does 1 wound on the D6 multi-wound, so that's a good start for myself. Over here, the Rat Ogres are placed right in front of this forest. This way when the organ gun and the quarrelers open up fire, they end up doing no wounds onto the Rat Ogres, which is pretty awesome. So we move into my turn 1, in which case I pivot my Hell Pit Abomination to run towards the dwarves, and I roll triples. Triple 6s. As much as 18-inch move would be wonderful, that is a failure. Any trips on the Hell Pit is a failure, so we roll it up a d6, and the result is he just doesn't move this turn, which is not good, so he's going to take some more cannon shots. The rest of the army moves as so. I decide not to move the Storm Fiends into the building and instead take an opportunity to unload a handful of shots with them. The Storm Room move up and make some room for the Storm Fiends to go through. Hell Pit Abomination, like I said, does not move at all, and the Slays and the Rat Darts in the bunker do proceed forward. I do go ahead and miscast on Plague, so I do get it off successfully, which is wonderful. And I kill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Longbeards, which isn't wonderful, but it's not bad. It's, you know, fine for the miscast. And then the Plague ends, which sucks, but hell, I'll take it. Most of my shooting isn't too effective, at least from the lightning cannon doesn't do too much. The Storm Fiends have a handful of shots. They managed to take out 6, it looks like 6 Iron Drakes, which is fine. I mean, I thought they were going to do a little bit more, but you know what, it is what it is, but that's definitely helpful. I do want to kill as many of them as possible, this way the Helped Abomination doesn't lose its regen. So for the dwarves movement, we have these guys fly 20 inches over and do some dive bombs, which yields 3 wounds onto the Storm Fiends. Doesn't take one out, so I'm pretty happy about that. After realizing the Storm Fiends have a roll of 96 shots, 9d6 shots, my opponent realizes how devastating these are, that he has the oh shit moment. This is really what the end times is all about. And he goes ahead and shoots cannons and organ guns and Iron Drakes at these guys, so I end up getting 2 of them killed and 1 of them has a wound or 2 on him. So not much going on in the dwarf turn. We do go ahead and have some Skaven turn again, so you can see how close my red ogres are getting. The Storm Vermin march up full, the Helped Abomination is finally getting somewhere, the Doom Rocket guy gets out of the unit so that he can shoot, but not go too far with the slaves. Because if he gets too close, he'll overshoot. And I got the giant rats up there because I want him to have to charge the giant rats if he wants to do a double charge on the storm vermin, which I don't think he would do, but I mean, because he needs that turn of shooting with the iron drakes. However, avoiding a double charge is always ideal, especially with that +1 strength. I'll deal with the extra ward save when I charge his unit. I don't really care about that. It's more about avoiding the double charge. The Doom Rocket overshoots and only kills like 3 Iron Breakers. I was hoping for more. And then this happens. The Lightning Cannon misfires and moves a random 46 inches with the large tablet strength 10 and completely erases the Slave Rats, which at this point I think costs the game for me. Or so I think. Because I no longer have 50 slaves to sit there and grind against the Iron Breakers. I was going to have these guys run up against the Iron Breakers, sit there, let the Storm Vermin do what they had to do on the left side of the battlefield, and deal with the Iron Breakers later. But you can see 21 slaves is not really going to do much work. So we go into the Dwarf turn 3. And you can actually see here that the Storm Fiend actually moved into the building at this point. Just the one of the guy. I'll take as much protection as I can. The Iron Drakes go ahead and maneuver so they can take shots at the Rat Ogres, and we'll be able to have a counter shot, which I'm fine with. The Longbeards go ahead and charge the unit of Giant Rats. The Gyrocopter, one of them moves up right next to the Storm Vermin, which can be really scary. He should have done the same with the second, but he didn't. 2 flame templates would have probably destroyed this unit, but instead he goes to, I guess, redirect or get in the way. I think that ends up being a misplay, and I think he ends up realizing that too, because if I would have taken 2 flame templates, like I said, the unit would have been gone. To the right here, the Iron Breakers go ahead and charge the slaves because there's no reason not to. He's going to weed them out real quickly. One thing to notice that we have Giant Rats fighting a cannon up to the top right corner. Failed to mention that in my turn. War Machines end up killing the Helped Abomination, unfortunately, so he is dead and he does not come back to life. I did drop the token, but he is dead, and that really stings. Too bad he didn't move first turn, otherwise he would have gotten to combat. So the Gyrocopter kills 10 Storm Vermin. It could have been 20 if the second one went, but it's just the 10, which I'm okay with. It's not wonderful, but it's not terrible. Leadership 10 with the reroll, I end up being okay. One thing I didn't mention is the fact that my Gracier is back in the bunker, and the BSB and the Lord on Bonebreaker is in the Storm Vermin unit to the left of the front of the unit. And the slaves get completely destroyed. So now we're into Skaven turn 3. I have the Rat Ogres take a charge onto the Iron Drakes. A few of them drop in the process. Looks like I lose 3 altogether. I have a Giant Rat unit to the left go in onto the Organ Gun. Do remember that the Quarrelers are inside the building. And the Storm Vermin go ahead and charge the Gyrocopter. Gyrocopter flees, so I overrun here or redirect my charge into the Longbeards, which should be pretty good. There's 2 heroes in there. I'm not too afraid of them right now. And it looks like to the right my opponent either overran when he charged the slaves or didn't combat reform. He probably should have combat reformed. It looks like he might have overrun so he can get closer to the bunker unit and the Gracier, who's not the general. General's on the Bonebreaker. So that is probably a second misplay on his side. He probably should have redirected or reformed to face the Stormvermin, in which case I probably wouldn't have charged. I probably would have been a little bit more defensive, but I need to take opportunities when I can, so I charged the Longbeards. I end up losing a Rat Ogre in this combat, but not after killing a handful of Iron Drakes, which is wonderful. We do go ahead and roll up the Overrun, because he does flee, or my pursuit I should say, and I roll 2. I roll Snake Eyes. He rolls 3 for the Iron Drakes, and he rolls like 4 for the Gyrocopter, the Gyrocopter was 4 inches away. Either way, I only go 2 inches, so I do not kill the Gyrocopter, and I do not catch the Iron Drakes, which is a mess. Because I honestly was going to take advantage of this opportunity to wipe out these 2 units, turn around and go after those Quarrelers, who would have allowed me to... I mean, they would have been stubborn in the building, but 3 Rat Ogres, that's 2 of them have 4 attack, the Masterbred has 5 attacks. That would have been wonderful to go in there and smash up some dwarves inside the building, but I can't do that now because now I have to finish chasing down these units, who, as you could see, get away. Actually, the Iron Drakes rolled higher than I realized, but all I needed was a couple inches to go ahead and kill that friggin' Gyrocopter in the unit, but damn. Alright, so the Stormvermin, a little bit of a blurry picture, my apologies. Stormvermin do dice up the Longbeards pretty good. He is stubborn in that unit too, whether it's a rune on the... I think it's a rune on the unit, which is pretty effective. I am down to 3 ranks of 10 Stormvermin. The Red Ogre Bonebreaker does most of the damage. The Razor Banner helps too, but since I charged him, he does have that 5/6 parry save, which with the other Trickster's Shard ends up being very effective. All those rerolls of the ward saves on either the characters and or that 5/6 parry has proven to be pretty useful, so that worked out very well. So here we are on Dwarf turn 4, and he goes ahead and charges the bunker, in which case I can't let him go and kill my Gracier. I need my magic to really help out. All the spells that I have gotten off, which isn't a lot, I did mention Plague, but the other ones might have been like a Warp Lightning here or there. I end up getting off without him spell eating, so that's wonderful. So I just barely make it to the edge of the table here with my +1 to flee. I'm just barely there. So he false charges, which is great. Again, another opportunity to have him not facing me, because if he did go and crush the Gracier in that unit, he could have let me run away, and he could have turned around and faced the Stormvermin. So the fact that I am not dealing with this Ironbreaker unit is huge. Very, very huge. So I'm very glad about that. And I mean, I'm out of commission with my magic until these guys rally, but hopefully they rally my turn. Which they should. They're at freaking leadership 10, because I've got a Gracier in there. Gracier, leadership 7, +3 ranks, and then +1 for the musician, so 11 actually rallies me. So over here, both the Iron Drakes and the Gyrocopter rally, so now I have to deal with both of them, and you can see the Longbeards are slowly getting grinded down. So another thing to reflect on is when you catch a unit, you're able to reform. I think that applies to frenzied units too. If you pursue and catch, you're able to reform, which is what I wanted to do against the building and charge them in my turn. But since they're stuck here in close range against the Quarrelers and the Organ Gun, I end up losing 2 more guys. The Storm Fiend inside the building also ends up dying too. Rat Pack over here runs away from the cannon. At least I tied it up for a turn. Over here, in Skaven turn 4, Rat Ogres, which is 3 left at this point, go into the Gyrocopter so they can eventually overrun into the Iron Drakes. And that's it really. So I didn't get to go after the Quarrelers, and or if I decided not to, the Rat Ogres could have went over there and diced up the Gyrocopter and the other war machines, but man, Rat Ogres overrunning with 2. No good. So in Magic, I Irresistible Force a Curse of the Horned Rat, which pretty much eliminates this unit of Ironbreakers. I leave 11 with the champion, or with the Runesmith. So that's pretty good. I do miscast and end up like blowing up, which is terrible, I guess. So these guys end up panicking and running off the table. So I no longer have a bunker with a Gracier, but it comes at a pretty good cost because the Ironbreakers are pretty much at nothing. You can see on the top of the screen the slaves are kind of moving in to get in the way. And the Rat Ogres kill the Gyrocopter, and we can continue to grind against this, what I think is just heroes left now, because one of them's stubborn. I forget why. And so I've reformed, so I still have some ranks here, and I can keep as many guys in combat. And then into the dwarf turn 5, you can see the gyrocopter goes ahead and moves into the way of the slaves, because a flank charge onto the iron breakers would have been pretty shitty. So at the end of the dwarf turn, I end up killing off the heroes, and I do combat reform to face the reformed iron breakers. So I'm going to be able to run to them and hopefully kill them. It ends up being that reform ended at the end of his turn, so in the beginning of my turn I'm able to make this charge successfully, which is wonderful. The slaves go into the gyrocopter, whatever, and you can see that the rat ogres are still fighting the stupid iron drakes because they just keep passing leadership tests on stubborn 10. Pretty sure they're leadership 10. So I kill the iron drakes top left and reform to face the building, which at this point is kind of pointless to deal with. The slaves do combat break the gyrocopter. He gets no hits on me, or he kills at least one slave, but I have a charge and 3 ranks, so he ends up losing by 2 or 3, in which case he actually fails his leadership 9 test and he turns and runs. He gets away. I don't catch him, but that's better than having the slaves blow up. In dwarf turn 6, we try to rally the gyrocopter and we continue fighting. There's less and less iron breakers because he starts losing parry saves. Or no, iron breakers always get that funky parry of 6+, or 5+, whatever it is. They got some cool rules, but the reroll with the trickster shard is useful, and the razor banner -2 armor is pretty great for the stormer, so that works out pretty well. The war machines end up going ahead and shooting all of the rat ogres that are remaining. So I have no rat ogres left, but I do go ahead in the end of my turn, chasing down and killing the remaining hero and the few iron breakers left. I don't get the gyrocopter, but I'm able to squeak out at like 307 or 8 points over my opponent, so I actually get the primary objective, which is huge. I was not anticipating getting that because it was just so close. He has 20 points left in war machines. Here's the rest of the battlefield. As you could see in Skaven turn 6, I spread out my units just a bit so I contest 2 of the table quarters, or at least I can, however it ends up working, because we're both in these 2 table quarters. I have the one closest to me and we contest the one that he's got his war machines in, so I end up having 1 table quarter, he ends up having none, because that gyrocopter, I guess, did not rally. And I end up getting primary and secondary objectives. I do not get my tertiary objective, my hidden mission of killing the quarrelers in the building, because he's got the unit left. I had to kill core and I just didn't get around to killing that building, which kind of sucks. But hell, I walk away with a win so far. I think I got like 17 points out of 20, which is pretty cool. And stay tuned for game 2 and let me know what you guys think. Questions or comments below, and let me know what you think about the rat ogres. They failed that overrun, but when they get into combat, a lot of attacks at strength 5 is pretty decent. See you in the next one.